Well, now it's time for the second Spanish colleague, David Cárdenas, associate professor at the University of Granada, Andalusia. He's expert in basketball, but also is expert in decision-making, executive function, and task design. Is close similar to Wade and to Carl, and probably some relationships can be also established and going on with this research line. But he also has investigated performance in military participants and military subjects. So probably we can learn more about his research lines in this brief presentation of the main research areas that he is developing. David, are you there?
Thank you so much to our Australian colleagues and the other people who are attending this presentation. And obviously, thank you to my good friend, Miguel, for introducing to me. I would like to tell you something. I'm abroad, I'm not in Spain. And I present my apology because I don't know if, because I'm depending of a Wi-Fi, very unstable Wi-Fi of the hotel. So I hope to be lucky, and you can understand what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to try to be brief, okay? These are our research topics in our group. We are trying to study about the bidirectional relationship between physical activity and cognition. At the same time, we are trying to be more specific because I am, as Miguel told you, specialized in basketball, so it's a team sport. So I'm very interested in this relationship between sports and cognition. Another research topic is cognitive challenge point in team sport. I will try to explain to you later. The mental workload influence. Somebody who is specialized in basketball went to study with military people. It was by a very practical reason. My friend Enrique Ortega in 2013 called me because he had a very good connection with a military base in Murcia, where the military are trying to train people as pilots. So we had a chance to study decision-making with people, I think, in a very similar, in one way, environments like sport, because they need to take decisions in a very short time, under pressure, under stress, in a very uncertain environment. So there are many similarities between that environment, military environment, and ours in sport, at least in team sports. So we started that collaboration with this idea, was how physical fitness could influence on the impact of mental workload that military pilots could experience when they were working in their environment. What we do was make different things. One part of our research was focused on the relationship between the activity, physical activity, and its effects on the some structural changes in the brain. But on the other way, we try to analyze not only structural changes, but functional changes. So there is a very long and very strong evidence about the benefits of physical activity on brain functions. And in our case, we try to apply it to military people with good results. Because it is a very long research project, and there are so many different results. And I think it's not the most important in our case. It's only to show you what we did in general. I'm going to tell you some of the results. For example, thanks to magnetic resonance imaging, we could see that there was a very strong relationship between affect regulation and some subcortical morphology in military pilots. At the same time, we discovered that, for example, the visceral adipocyte tissue was negative connected with connectivity, brain connectivity. Or, for example, that emotion regulation could predict gains in exercise-induced fitness. So we made another different things about hormonal response in military pilots in order to see if physical activity could promote improvement in brain function in order to control, to self-regulate the emotions. Because as I said before, they need to take decisions, very important decisions in a very short time, but under pressure. We were working with optometries. It was very interesting for us because it helps us improve our knowledge about some optical biomarkers as IOP is intraocular pressure or tear osmolarity. So we use those biomarkers in order to measure the workload. And later we applied in the sport environment. Recently, we developed a doctoral thesis for Captain Carlos Fernandez in Armenia, one military base in our city, our hometown, Granada. The principal goal was to analyze the effect of a moderate physical exercise just before the flight in order to reduce the mental load of the helicopter. It must be considered that those pilots are in the basic training. So for them, it's very, very stressful training because they are learning to fly. So our results show that simple 15 minutes of jogging before the flight can reduce the intraocular pressure, which is a good biological marker of stress. So the conclusion is that just before the effect, the acute effect of physical activity can help somebody like military people in a very stressful conditions to reduce the stress and obviously to make good decisions. Now we're involved in another different project called Benefits of the Physical Exercise, Mental Load Manipulation, and Neurofeedback on Cognitive, Emotional, and Sport Performance. We have made a study, 4-month intervention with 2 different groups, one combining resistance training and aerobic training, another group practicing basketball with a very high cognitive demands, and obviously a control group. After 4 months, we have seen a very clear difference in favor of the 2 groups. The 2 experimental groups, the first one combining the aerobic training and resistance training and basketball training compared with control group. But specifically, when we have analyzed the brain morphometry, we saw specific differences in favor of basketball training group. In ventrolateral prefrontal contrast, in dorsolateral prefrontal contrast, which are the biological foundations of executive functions. We have evidence about the benefits of physical activity on cognitive function. We have seen in the literature some controversy. There are many variables or moderators that can influence on those so different results. Some of the researchers have found a strong evidence of these benefits of the physical activity on the brain function, but others not so big or none effects. No? In our case, we are absolutely convinced that the problem, analyzing the literature, is that we are giving a different workload in the same group, because we are establishing some specific difficulty without taking into account the capacity of the individuals into the group. So what we think is that, this is our hypothesis, is that we need to obviously individualize not only physical workload, but mental workload, which is not easy, obviously. But if we don't do it, we are going to find very, very different results in research. So with this idea, I'm going to move. Okay. The aims are to analyze the acute effect on the contextual and emotional variables, manipulation in team sport tasks, on the perceived mental load, on the emotional dynamics, on the perceived effort, and biomarkers of physiological load, cognitive performance, and specific motor performance. Second general aims is to verify the chronic effect on different training programs in team sport, basketball, volleyball, and soccer, based on the level of cognitive demand and emotional self-regulation on cognitive performance, hot and cold executive functions, and also on specific motor performance. And the third is to check the impact of emotional manipulation of team sport tasks on perceived mental load, emotional dynamics, perceived effort, and workload physiological biomarkers. So you can see in the slide some of the variables we are going to measure. In the case of cognitive performance, we will measure executive function and working memory, inhibitory control, or cognitive flexibility. Okay. We were developing another doctoral thesis of Diego Cruz from Colombia, with the aim of looking for the keys of the optimal challenge during physical exercise to improve cognitive control and motor performance in the process of teaching and sport training. The aims are to explore the possible influence of the type of sport and the motor performance of athletes corresponding to different training stages and levels of expertise on the type of cognitive control developed. Second is to check the acute effect of physical exercise on cognitive control and motor performance, and the influence of functional difficulty. This is considering the real possibilities of the level of the players or the athletes on cognitive control, motor performance, from the manipulation of the nominal difficulty. To check the acute effect of reward and the uncertainty of achievement on the participants' cognitive control, motor performance, affective states, and motivation, to analyze the mediating effect of emotional state on the possible benefits of manipulating the obtaining of rewards, and the level of uncertainty to obtain it on the type of cognitive control and motor performance. It will determine the influence generated by the degree of uncertainty on the assigned task in athletes in training stages, and to analyze what methodological adjustment should be made in teaching learning process of these athletes. Okay. The other research topic is about the bidirectional relationship between mental workload and physical performance. We have done many different studies about that. I'm not going to explain because I don't want you to get bored. But we started to do it on in laboratory, and later, currently, we are trying to do it in on courts. We have also been studying about the influence of rule change on sport learning. And more recently, about the relationship between executive function, emotional self-regulation, impulsivity, and sport success. And this is another doctoral thesis, just in development, differences in the monitoring of behavior in athletes' cognitive conflict according to type of sport. We're going to use electroencephalography, and that's all.